welcome to my review for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So, it is finally here. I have been reviewing every single Star Wars movie, the prequels, the originals, Episode 7, and the holiday special, all of them leading up to Star Wars Rogue One. I have been anticipating this movie for a very long time. At the beginning of the year, it was my most anticipated. And why? Because it's a Star Wars movie. And whenever there's a Star Wars movie that's coming out, I'm going to be excited for it. I have been a fan of Star Wars my entire life. I've read the canon novels. I read Catalyst going into this one. I collect the pops. I am a huge fan of Star Wars. So this one revolves around the story of the group of people that steal the plans to the Death Star and end up giving it to the rebellion. Those events, what happens there is exactly what spun off this entire franchise. It's what started Episode 4. So this is a huge event. While also at the same time, this film had a lot on its back. It's the first film that is not an episodical Star Wars film. It is not 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have a label like that. It is simply Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So this film had a lot on its back, and I do have to say that I did really, really like this movie. I really enjoyed it. It's not as great as I wanted it to be, but I think that a lot of Star Wars fans need to take a step back and understand that we are not getting the next Empire Strikes Back here. They need to understand we are not going to get a phenomenal movie, because a phenomenal movie is rare. And when you expect a phenomenal movie from a movie, you're already giving bad credit to it. But as I digress, I do have to say, this movie, by far, has some of the best cinematography I've seen all year. The cinematography in this movie is stunning. It beautifully shows the fantastic CGI with fantastic shots of worlds, of ships, of cities, just so many amazing shots throughout this movie. Whoever did the cinematography, I do believe deserves an Oscar nomination for his work because it looked fantastic in here. I also like how this movie represented the power of the Empire. The Empire is not the type of thing that you want to mess with. They are a powerful group, and a lot of people are just sort of accepting the fate that they are put at with the Empire, which is part of the reason that so many people are scared of the Empire, because it is so powerful, and they fantastically represent that in this movie. There is paranoia for if the Empire, people of the Empire will come into your house and kill you. There is lots of paranoia like that throughout. There are lots of people who are scared of the Empire, and it was very, very well expressed. They did do a very good job with that in the original trilogy, but this one, I think, best represents the horror of the Empire and how truly terrifying it is. They did a great job with that. I love a lot of the battle sequences, too. The action in this movie is fantastic. What I love most about it is that it does not look choreographed. There is a person with a staff that uses the staff and twists it back and forth and hits stormtroopers with it, but it doesn't look choreographed. I really like that, and I also like how it feels like war violence. It doesn't feel like your typical action. It's very well thought out, it's very well planned, and it really made the third act of this movie very, very enjoyable. Now, the first two acts, maybe, my biggest issue with them is that it was a bit hard to get into. However, the third act definitely takes away those because the third act definitely is so entertaining. It's got fantastic battle sequences. There's one stupid thing that happens. There's one very dumb decision. But besides that, the third act is great. And also, the last 2-3 minutes of this movie are amazing. If you are a fan of Star Wars, you will squeal at the last 2 or 3 minutes of this movie, and you will end up cheering very, very loudly. They did a great job with that. Now, something I want to bring up about this movie is Vader. A lot of people are focused on Vader. A lot of people know that it's just going to be a cameo, and that's all it is. He's in the movie for 3 or 4 minutes, and here's what I have to say about it. For the first part, he occurs 2 times. For the first part, it was an okay appearance. He just sort of appeared and told someone something, and that's all he really did, which was a bit annoying because I wanted to see more from him. But the second time he comes on screen, you see a new Darth Vader. This is not the type of Darth Vader we have seen before. The one before is a violent guy, but he's not as ferocious as they display him. Remember, the giant weaponized thing that he has spent many, many years crafting is on the border of being destroyed. He is mad, and they really, really well represent that in a quick sequence, about 30 seconds, that honestly felt like true horror. Rogue One turned into a horror film for 30 seconds for what happens. I'll go more into that on my spoiler review, but that was quite a scary sequence. And also, something else I gotta bring up is the group. The team, that was a very well represented part of the movie. These are not your typical heroes. And I know that you say that a lot about movies, but they aren't. These are the type of heroes that are not very squeaky or shiny. They aren't very happy. They're normal human beings, which was very nice and refreshing to see in a Star Wars movie. Usually the characters in Star Wars are very, very, high level ranking people. They have a lot of class, or they're very strong or something like that. But the characters in Rogue One were definitely very different. Now, I do want to start getting into the bads about this movie. What I do have to say is that the characters were very, very bland. A lot of them had no development. I would give an exception to K2SO because that was an awesome droid who said some fantastic lines of sarcasm and provided a lot of the comedic relief, and I thought he was a great addition. But besides that, everyone else didn't have too much to them. They all were okay characters that had something at the very least, had a certain characteristic that you could identify them with. But besides that, they were all very weak characters that had nothing to them. I also have to say, as previously mentioned, the first two acts were kind of hard. I'd say more the first half was kind of hard to get into. As it goes on, it gets better. And also, the score in this movie. It's not bad. It's a fine score. It's the first time John Williams didn't score it, which was a bit annoying because you could tell that that was the case. But my biggest issue is how unsubtle the score was. At least for the first half, because the score was so in your face. You would be listening to characters having dialogue, and then the score would be on the forefront. Now, it wasn't like Interstellar, where they were going over the characters' lines just for the music. It wasn't that, but they did it in a different way that was equally as annoying. And that really did weigh it down. Now, look. Definitely Rogue One is the most mature Star Wars movie that we've gotten, which I really love, because it doesn't represent things as good or bad. It represents them in that gray area, and I really did enjoy that. It's got things that kids will enjoy, but don't fool yourself. This is very much a more adult-associated Star Wars movie, which, of course, I really enjoyed. So, all in all, I really liked Rogue One. I would probably recommend it to anyone, and just remember, if you're not liking it in the first half, don't worry, it gets better. And I'm going to give Rogue One a 7.5 out of 10. Maybe people who aren't the biggest fans of Star Wars won't like it, but personally, as a fan of Star Wars, I loved this movie. Yes, it has its issues, but I did end up really enjoying it. Alright, that concludes my review for Star Wars Rogue One. If you're curious about my other Star Wars reviews, link in bio to the playlist that has them all. Alright, that concludes the review. So what did you think of this movie? Comment in the comment section below. I am Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.